All right, YouTube, it's time for occult literature video number 45, The Mirror of Alchemy by Roger Bacon, ascribed to Roger Bacon. He didn't actually write it. It comes from a couple centuries later. That being said, it's still one of the best works of alchemy. Very short, only 24 pages long, but it manages to pack a lot of knowledge into a very, very small space. Definitely worth getting. Link in the description to my edition on Amazon. Second link, as always, to my books blog. You navigate to the left-hand side of the page. You'll find 4 different individual entries. There is alchemy, for those of you who are mostly interested in that. Another link to folk magic, another for some more spiritual works, a Testament of Solomon and stuff like that. And then a fourth link to grimoires, which is the bulk of my sales, I know, the bulk of what people appear to be interested in the modern age. The Mirror of Alchemy is ascribed to Roger Bacon without having been written by him. That is, this is one of those texts in the long tradition of misattributing a text to an author who is famous. For instance, saying Hermes wrote this, and it wasn't him. Moses wrote this, and it had nothing to do with Moses. It came like 1,000 years after the time of Moses, or Solomon, or one of these figures. John Dee, Nostradamus, Agrippa, like the 4th book of occult philosophy. That shouldn't, though, detract from the text any, because it's quite literally, it's just talking about alchemy. It just happens to be ascribed to somebody who had nothing to do with its manufacture. But then again, that's almost every alchemical text. You've got to understand this. This work is more literal than most. Most alchemical works lay it over thick on the literal meaning of the text, with either very spiritual references, in the name of God do this, through the power of Jesus do that, here's the Holy Virgin, she will help you in your work. Or it veils them in arcane references that even in modern times sometimes aren't easily understood. This work really does away with that and sort of secularizes the topic of alchemy, sort of explaining, when you react the elixir this way, it will glow like a peacock. This is normal. It shifts colors and sort of glows like a rainbow. And it primarily revolves around elixir, not sort of the Sorcerer's Stone in the sense of a work of Saturn by Hollandus, or a Sorcerer's Stone in the essence of the Rosarium Philosophorum, the Rosary of the Philosophers, the foremost alchemical text. It's not like Basil Valentine's work or something like that. It primarily revolves around elixir in the more medicinal sense, the more chemical sense, and the more literal sense. And that's very rare to find among alchemical texts. Most often you get react red lion with the red oil, and then kill the green dragon, and the phoenix shall rise from the feces within your alembic and distill the result, and here you have the precursor to elixir, and here's your mercury duplex, add this to the elixir, boil it over a low furnace. It doesn't go into that. It quite clearly delineates the type of furnace to use, the type of fire to use, the type of materials to work with. It's a much more literal than most alchemical text. If you intend to practice alchemy, and I cannot legally recommend you do so because you're going to be working with toxic materials, this is probably the foremost work among them as far as the more literal content goes. There are other works that I can recommend. You're going to have a copy of the Rosary of the Philosophers anyway because it's so long, and if you can sort of work through the veiled references within, it will serve you better than any other possible guide. Other alchemical authors applaud it universally. There's not a single one of them that says anything bad about the Rosary of the Philosophers. But the Mirror of Alchemy is probably up there with the Aurora of the Philosophers as far as being an important alchemical text. So if you're into the subject, highly recommended. If you're not into alchemy, of course, you're not really going to understand what it's talking about. It's talking about chemical interactions, thinly and vaguely veiled in the spiritual and in sort of these alchemical metaphors. But a very good work, again, rather short, 24 pages, but worth every penny, ultimately, if you're interested in the topic of alchemy. It's a must-have for any alchemical library if they're taking it seriously. As usual, link in the description to my edition of this work. Second link to my books blog. Again, if you're into alchemy, I think there's 15 texts there now available or something like that. That's about all. Peace out.